Hi, we're going to be going over the story, The Washerwoman. It's a narrative fiction short story by Isaac Singer. And your teachers will go over the questions with you, but I just want to talk to you a little bit about this short story. First off, Isaac Singer was born in Poland, and he wrote a number of short stories. He was born in 1914, and he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1978. And I think you'll find this story very interesting. She was a small woman, old and wrinkled. When she started washing for us, she was already past 70. Most Jewish women of her age were sickly and weak. All of the old women in our street had bent backs and leaned on sticks when they walked. But this washwoman, small and thin as she was, possessed a strength that came from generations of peasant forebears. Mother would count on her to bundle up the laundry that was accumulated over several weeks. She would then lift the bundle and put it on her narrow shoulders and carry it the long way home. She would bring the laundry back about 2 weeks later. My mother had never been so pleased with any washwoman, yet she charged no more than the others. She was a real find. Mother always had her money ready because it was too far for the old woman to come a second time. Laundry was not easy in those days. The old woman had no running water where she lived. She had to bring the water from a pump, and the drying, it would not be done outside because thieves would steal the laundry. So she had to carry it all up to the attic and hung it on clotheslines. Only God knows what the old woman had to endure each time she did wash. She could have begged at the church doors, or even entered the home of the penniless and aged. But there she was, with her certain pride and love of labor with which many members of the labor force have been blessed. The old woman did not want to become a burden, so she bore her burden. My mother spoke a little Polish, and the old woman could talk with her about many things. She was especially fond of me, and used to say that I looked like Jesus. She repeated this every time she came, and Mother would frown and whisper to herself, her lips barely moving. May her words be scattered in the wilderness. The woman had a son who was rich. He was ashamed of his mother and never came to see her, nor did he ever give her money. The old woman told this without bitterness. When the son got married, the wedding took place in a church, and the son had not invited the old mother to his wedding. But she went to the church anyway and waited at the steps to see her son lead the bride to the altar. Mother gave her a pot of tea to warm herself, as well as some bread. The old woman sat on the kitchen chair and trembled and shaking, and warmed her hands against the teapot. Her fingernails were strangely white. These hands spoke of the stubbornness of mankind, of the will to work not only as one's strength permits, but beyond the limits of one's power. It was sad to watch the old woman stagger out with the big bundles and disappear. The bundle was big and bigger than usual. Then the woman placed it on her shoulders, and it covered her completely. At first she swayed as though she were about to fall under the load, but an inner obstinacy seemed to call out, "No, you may not fall. A donkey may permit himself to fall under his burden, but not a human being, the crown of creation." It was fearful to watch the old woman staggering out of the enormous pack, out into the frost where the snow was dry as salt, and the air was filled with dusty white whirlwinds, like goblins dancing in the cold. Would have the old woman ever reach Woola? She disappeared, and Mother sighed and prayed for her. Usually the woman brought back the wash after 2 or at the most 3 weeks. But 3 weeks passed, and then 4 and 5, and nothing was heard of the old woman. She remained without linens. The cold had become even more intense. The telephone wires were now as thick as hawsers. The branches of the trees looked like glass. So much snow had fallen that the streets had become uneven, and on many streets sleds were able to glide down as if on a slope of a hill. Kind-hearted people lit fires in the streets for vagrants to warm themselves and roast potatoes over, if they had any to roast. For us, the washerwoman's absence was a catastrophe. We needed the laundry. We did not even know the woman's address. It seemed certain that she had collapsed, died. Mother declared that she had a premonition and that we would never see our things again. We mourned, both for the laundry and for the old woman who had grown close to us through the years. She had served us faithfully. More than 2 months passed. One evening, while Mother was sitting near the lamp mending a shirt, the door opened and a small puff of steam, following a huge bundle, entered. Under the bundle tottered the old woman. Her face was white as linen sheet. Mother uttered a half-choked cry as though a corpse had entered the room. I ran toward the old woman and helped her unload her bundle. She was even thinner now, more bent, and she could not utter a clear word, but mumbled something with her sullen mouth and pale lips. After the old woman had recovered whatever, she told us that she had been ill, very ill. Just what her illness was, I cannot remember. She'd been so sick that someone had called a doctor, and the doctor had sent a priest. Someone had informed the son, and he had contributed money for her coffin and for the funeral. But the Almighty had not yet wanted to take this pain-racked soul to himself, and she began to feel better. She became well, and as soon as she was able to stand on her feet once more, she resumed her washing. Not just ours, but the wash of several other families too. I could not rest easy in my bed because of the wash, the old woman explained. The wash could not let me die. With the help of God, you will live to be 120, said my mother as a benediction. God forbid, what good would such a long life be? The work becomes harder and harder. My strength is leaving me. I do not want to be a burden on anyone. The old woman muttered and crossed herself and raised her eyes toward heaven. Fortunately, there was some money in the house, and Mother counted out what she owed. I had a strange feeling the coins in the woman's washed out hands seemed to become as weary and clean and porous as she herself was. She blew on the coins and tied them in a handkerchief. And then she left, promising to return in a few weeks for a new load of wash. But she never came back. The wash she had returned was the last effort, her last effort on this earth. She had been driven by an indomitable will to return the property to its rightful owners, to fulfill the task she had undertaken. And now, at last, the body, which had long been no more than a broken shard, supported only by the force of honesty and duty, had fallen. The soul passed into those spheres where all holy souls meet, regardless of the roles they play on this earth, in whatever tongue, of whatever creed. I cannot imagine Eden without this washerwoman. I cannot even conceive of a world where there is no recompense for such effort. The end. I hope you enjoyed the story, and now your teachers will ask you the questions and you will answer them using your devices. Thank you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.